Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be doing something that I have been waiting to do for quite a while, and that is going to be ranking all of the events on a tier list. Now, I only started TDX a while ago, so a lot of the event stages are going to be completely missing from this tier list, and the main ones we're going to be looking at are the ones right here, and in addition to these ones, we'll also be taking a look at Slime City and the April Fool's event. Right here, I made a tier list, and this is everything that I have played through, and I'll basically give my opinion about it and talk about features that I really enjoyed. Before we begin, if you haven't already, try these out. They're a ton of fun, and they have their own little loadouts. That is like the one major key feature that I love about TDX, is that their events allow anyone to just hop in and play and learn and have fun. Now, without further ado, we're gonna go from the top up here, go over, and then go down to the next row, and so on and so on. If you're wondering about the icons, I pulled some of these from the wiki or fandom, but they still go in order, so it'll be fine. By the way, I forgot to mention, but all of my input is gonna be outside of the Nightmare difficulty mode for all of these event stages, so just keep that in mind. Now, first off, we're going to be talking about Slime City. Honestly, this is a pretty good one to start off on. When it comes to all of the different event modes in this game, Slime City, oddly enough, feels like the perfect balance between easy and enough panicking to kind of get the feel for what TDX is about. A lot of the enemies in this event are going to be straightforward design-wise, so if you're looking for something spectacular, you're going to have to go check out the other events if you're a new player. But to give the gist of it, all of the enemies are pretty much slimes, but we do have a few gimmicky slimes here and there. But when it comes to the main aspects of this one, the event itself kind of shies away from a few of the main aspects. For example, in this mode, your towers will not have a health bar, they won't die, you'll be fine. But you're still going to have that overwhelming presence of a huge horde of enemies approaching at you at all times because of how overwhelming the slimes themselves can be. And that's why I make the remark that it's a perfect balance between easy and panicking. One of the major highlights in this one is going to be the mini boss. It has a really cool mechanic where as you break him apart with his health bars, he'll transform to a lesser slime and further degrade as you finish off his multitude of different health bars. Take it or leave it, the last final stage when you're fighting the final boss is pretty cool, but a little bit underwhelming if you have a huge amount of DPS. But regardless, it's still a pretty fun event and a pretty awesome boss. The last thing that I do want to make a comment on is going to be the music in this stage. The music itself is pretty cool, but it's really different. As mentioned, this event kind of shies away from what TDX is. The music isn't inherently bad, it's just catches you off guard if you've listened to the other soundtracks for quite a while. This track in particular stood out, and it is wild to hear inside of TDX when you're used to listening to stuff like this. Now, when it comes to actually ranking Slime City, I think it's kind of perfect in between kind of game mode. It's great for new players, and it pretty much just comes down to a perfect side quest that you can do, have fun, and then get out of there and try something else. When it comes to ranking Slime City, I'm going to have to put it in C. It's a perfect middle ground. It's not bad, it's not amazing, but it's nice, you know? Now, on the complete opposite side of things is going to be the April Fool's event. This event is not recommended for new players, at least from me. I would not recommend you try this one. The mode still gives you loadouts, but this one is incredibly chaotic and really annoying to deal with. Not annoying in the whole entirety of it. There's a lot of cool enemies and a lot of cool gimmicks that you have to be aware of and kind of adapt to. But there's a lot of enemies that I personally do not like, and that's going to be huge health barred enemies. They're a pain to deal with, they're slow, they're going to take forever, And essentially a good chunk of this is going to be just waiting until the health bar depletes and then the next enemy is up in line. This only applies to a fraction of the event, but it's noticeable to where I kind of dread the event now. However, I will admit this is a pretty silly and chaotic event, so if you're looking for something along those lines, this could be perfect for you. Now, going back to the mention of not recommending it to new players, that is because of the loadouts that you're given and some of the things you have to be aware of. At least for the loadout I went into, it had a ton of units that I was not familiar with, and I was still in the form of progressing in this game. By the way, thank you to everyone who participated during the live streams when I was checking out a ton of these events. This one in particular, I did need help with. I was completely lost on what some of these towers were like. When it comes down to ranking this one, it's really chaotic, and I feel like it's in a complete different direction. It's somewhere around C and D because it's more appropriate for experienced players due to the sheer chaos of it. But I don't know, with my experience, I didn't really care for this one all that much, so I'm gonna have to put it in D tier. Now we can finally start on this list right here, and at the top we're going to begin with Easter Day. At this point in my progression, I had already played a good amount of the event stages, so I was really looking forward to Easter Day and Easter Night once they released. And oh boy, these were a bundle of joy. As for Easter Day, it's a very colorful map and a very interesting setup. You've got two sides that you have to defend, and a ton of the enemies are going to be super fast. This setup can be pretty overwhelming, but once you actually get into it, defending this map isn't all that bad. It's a nice balance between overwhelming and being pretty easy at the same time, but there's still a few things here and there that you have to keep an eye out for. From the different enemies, such as the ones that are going to be flying, the ones attacking your units, to the main boss itself with the double track system that you've got going on, there's a lot to take in. When it comes down to the enemies and their design, I thought they were really cool. It fit Easter really well, and the music was really surprising on this stage. Unlike Slime City, where it felt out of place, this one felt out of place in a really good way. You still had those upbeat tunes that kind of made you in the scenario, not too immersive and not too action-packed, but just enough where you're like, all right, this sounds good, I can get with this. A really interesting feature is going to be the health system in this event in particular. Your towers do have health bars above them, but the enemies themselves don't really drain your health all that much. But honestly, one medic should pretty much save you. And then the major twist happens where the boss just completely single targets your units and goes all out on trying to destroy you. Not completely, but there's a few attacks here and there that'll make you a little bit worried if this is your first time trying the event. Overall, this was an awesome event and represented Easter pretty nicely with the theming, and the finer details when it comes to the designs of the enemies were awesome and on point. The boss fight itself is still going to be one of my favorites because of how silly and goofy it is and overall fun. When it comes down to ranking Easter Day, it's probably going to be an A or an S. I'm going to be putting it in A for now just to see where things end up going later on. Now we need to talk about Easter Night. This event stage is way more dangerous than the first one, and it's a lot creepier, but not in a bad way. The attention to detail on the little enemies that you're going to be facing off are still there, and they're pretty awesome. There's a few things here and there that I can nitpick, but I feel like it would be pretty rough around the edges to kind of say they're bad when they kind of just fit. For example, a lot of the enemies that you're going to be encountering and some of the music from this mode kind of get pulled from the other Halloween stages that are currently in the game. When I first played this and I noticed the Halloween music from the other stages, I was kind of confused because I initially thought that this was totally going to be Easter themed. It's not a major detail by all means. It's just something that I've noticed. Now, when it comes to actual major details, the difficulty is definitely going to be way higher than Easter Day. The enemies in Easter Night will definitely show you no mercy, and will gladly attack your units until they die. And this is actually pretty fun. Trying to defend against the enemies, making sure you manage your units, and adapting to the new enemies that you face off. There's some really creepy designs and some really odd enemies that you gotta watch out for, so it keeps you active in the fight for the most part. However, when it comes down to the mini bosses that you're gonna encounter, they're really cool on their own. The main centerpiece is gonna be the boss himself, and he has a really cool gimmick. And overall, this is definitely one of the more polished events, and I really enjoyed it. As for Easter night, I kind of have to give it something similar to Easter day, but I do feel like it's a little bit lesser than Easter day. Not in a bad way, it's just I have way more preference for Easter day being on theme with Easter in general. For now, I'm definitely leaving it in A tier or high B. I'm gonna put it next to day. Next up is going to be Robot Invasion, and this is where things get really cool. The event itself has a cool feature where you can upgrade a few things for your different towers. You'll have to run around the map and collect a resource, and this is obtained from killing enemies. The mechanic itself is really cool and unexpected when I first played. As for the map, it's a pretty large map, and this is one of the few maps where it feels like a huge battlefield type of scenario, which is what I like when I started playing a few of these event modes. The enemies themselves have really cool designs, being robots and all, and once again, this is one of those events stages where there's going to be an overwhelming presence of enemies. At least the feel is there, because of the map itself and the sheer number of enemies that can appear. Other than that, there's honestly not much for me to say regarding this mode. It's a really cool mode, but that's honestly kind of the gist of it from what I got. As for the ranking of Robot Invasion, I'm gonna give it I'll give it B. Robot Invasion is a really cool event, so it's definitely above Slime City. But I honestly didn't have much of an impactful memory from it, so it's going in B for being quality, but it's not being higher up for memorabilia for me. Me in particular. If you guys think it should be higher, share your experience down below in the comments and let me know. In a similar vein is going to be Assault mode, in the main aspect that you're going to go head to head against robots again. However, this one's pretty cool. You have the same feature of the upgrade system from last time, but in this one, you kind of have to push back against the forces, which is really cool. In a similar way, it's kind of like Easter night, where it's another mode that gives you a challenge. I almost forgot to mention, but this one has a cinematic. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, I forgot about the cinematic, so it's a cool cinematic, but I don't know any of the lore in TDX. I don't think it does me much justice, but the event is pretty cool. When it comes to ranking Assault mode, I kind of feel like it's a little bit less compared to B. I don't know, this is personal preference kind of scenario. I much prefer the cool setting of the other Robot Invasion, so it's not a C, but it's definitely not an A. I'm gonna put it in B. Next up on the list is gonna be Shattered Moon, and this one's pretty cool. This one is like a standalone Halloween stage. To elaborate a little bit further, there's a bunch of Halloween stages, 1 through 4, and this one's kind of just off in the corner. However, this one's actually pretty cool compared to a few of the other Halloween stages. This one is most definitely up there when it comes to giving you a challenge compared to the Halloween stages that you can encounter. In the aspect of the enemy diversity with the types, there's going to be a huge amount of flying enemies, for example, and that's something you're going to have to adapt to compared to the other stages. The boss fight is really cool on its own as well, and the enemy designs are really neat to see. Once again, this is one of those scenarios where it feels like an upgraded version of a few of the other ones. It's a I want a challenge type of map if you're getting into TDX. I honestly would love to say more about it, but a lot of these Halloween ones are pretty much gonna be short, simple, sweet when it comes to describing them, and this is one of the more unique ones. You'll see once we get there, but they share similarities. Now, as for Shattered Moon, I'm gonna put it in B. It's one of the more interesting ones out of the bunch. Next up is tower battles. This one, once again, is in that sweet spot of being perfectly balanced, and the enemies in this mode are going to be pretty basic in the beginning, but as you progress, they're going to get really frightening in the aspect of their health bars and their mobility. And so with some of these loadouts, you have to take that into consideration and work around that. At least I had to think about this when I tried it out. I pretty much on the fly ended up learning about a unit when playing this mode, so it's a pretty fun way to learn. I will admit though, this one's really weird in the aspect of there's no music. It's a really awkward dead silence and then blaring music when the boss finally arrives. The boss itself is not the usual type of boss fight that you're going to be getting into in this game, where it's like a hyper-detailed robot or hyper-detailed enemy in general, to be honest with you. But it has that overwhelming presence that you have to be aware of and kind of get with for the immersion of the mode you're playing in. I don't know how to properly describe it, but if you've done Endless before, there's a similar load design type of boss fight that you'll encounter, and this is pretty much an upgrade when it comes to the immersion, the animation, and the liveliness of it. Overall, this mode is pretty fun, a good challenge, and one that I would recommend trying out. Tower battles is between A and B. It's so weird having no music until the end. That's like my only gripe with it. It's like a very high B. I'm gonna put it in B for now, and then I'll take a look at it afterwards. Alright, Merry Christmas, you guys. We're gonna be talking about both of the Christmas event stages, but first off, as for the first one, this is a really cool map. It's a dual path map, and you get some pretty fun loadouts. The enemies themselves are cool, the music is pretty alright, and the boss is very silly. It's definitely a festive event stage with the good old mix of chaos and danger and just action-packed fun in general that TDX has. This mode has a cinematic, and it's pretty cool. The cinematics in this game are great. They're pretty lively. The only thing I'm taken aback by when it comes to this mode is going to be the music. During the final boss fight, it gets really heavy. It's not your usual heavy and upbeat immersion. It's just heavy, which was really shocking at first. And then I was like, all right, I guess we're doing this now. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's just I didn't really get with it. I was like, yeah, okay, we're doing this. Otherwise, I enjoyed this one. Maybe not my first choice when it comes to introducing to a friend, but it's definitely up there. When it comes down to the difficulty of it, it's honestly not all that bad. There's a few gimmicks here and there that you have to watch out for, but this one's definitely on the lower side of things, where it's not too much of a panic attack, but it's a good amount of balance to where you don't really feel like you're going to be sweeping the floor with the enemies, you know? As for Christmas Part 1, it's like a low B or high C. I take that back. If City is C, it's going to be a low B. Now we can finally talk about one of my favorite event stages. That's going to be Christmas Part 2, and this one is awesome. It's a huge giant runway, basically, where you have to fend off against the horde of enemies, and it's a full-on battlefield. I really wish the game had more of these because they are so fun to do. You have the Christmas enemies like usual, and you've got a big pathway that you have to defend. This one feels a little bit more overwhelming because of the sheer number of enemies that can approach at times, especially in the early game when you're just starting out and you have to get something to defend. The gameplay and everything on its own is really fun. There's a few things here and there that can happen, like a floating enemy can get stuck if you have too many summons, and then you awkwardly have to get a unit that can hit floating enemies closer and closer to the floating one. The very final fight is really cool, and I enjoy it every time. There's a good amount of a tug-of-war scenario where the boss feels like it's overwhelming you, and it gets closer and closer, and it's a really cool scenario overall. This one is an easy A tier. That one's awesome. All right, I'm gonna be honest. We went from my favorite to one of my least favorites, Halloween Part 1. Halloween Part 1 is an alright introduction to the Halloween stages. It's super small, super short. The map design is really cool. It's detailed. The enemies are really cool as well, but it's incredibly basic and pretty short. I will admit the stage itself being short is a breather compared to a few of the other stages, which are really lengthy, but this one doesn't feel like it has much going on with it. As mentioned, it's an introduction, so you get used to a few of the enemies, and they're pretty deadly, but when it comes to the final fight, and this one is kind of a pushover, which is kind of saddening. This is one of those scenarios where you can kind of be overwhelmed with uncertainty if you're going into this blind, like completely blind, but as long as you have like a decent defense, you can keep up pretty well. And as mentioned, there's not really much to it. This one's a really easy one for me. This one is going to be going into C tier. For an event stage on its own, it's just lacking quite a bit. Moving on, we got Halloween Part 2, and this one has the same enemy setup pretty much. There's a little bit of a difference here. The challenge on this one is way higher because of the map layout and because of the enemies you're going to be encountering. But honestly, the map layout is one of the downfalls for me personally. It's really lengthy. Granted, the lengthyhood of it and the awkwardness of it kind of helps if you need that extra time, but it's really, really awkward of a map layout to play on. There's just one main circle in it that you have to, utilize the best you can, and a huge long strip that you can utilize as well, and that's it. For what it is, it's kind of disappointing, but the challenge is there. And I will admit, this is one of the first stepping stones where the Halloween stages actually do feel like a threat. The enemies themselves are in a larger group, and a lot of them are pretty fast, so you do have to take note of that. So the challenge being present is pretty nice to see. Halloween Part 2 isn't a B, but it's like a high C is what I'll be getting at. Now, this next one is one of my favorites for a very obvious reason, and that's going to be because the game feels like an all-out war once again. This is a map where everything is pretty much the pathway. Your objective is to defend a big piece of artillery from the oncoming enemies, and it is such a fun fight. You get to place your little units on the ground level and defend against the waves, and a lot of these enemies will get real close and personal to your units, and you just have to hope for the best and try to defend as best as you can. The setting is really awesome, the music's awesome, and the immersion and the feel is completely there. However, it does have one drawback, and that's going to be it's incredibly lengthy. It takes a good amount of time until this one is completed. At least it feels that way. There's a lot of dead spots and a lot of really drawn out moments where it feels like time is going slower, Other than that, this is a really fun one, and I would recommend it wholeheartedly, especially for the final boss fight in this stage where it gets really chaotic. This one most definitely is A tier. Alright, the very last one that we have to talk about is Halloween Part 4. When it comes to this one, this is an oddity within all of the event stages. It's going to be a hybrid between an all-out war and a really weird close quarter bunkering down type of scenario. You do want to bunker down, but notably that is because of the design of this one where you're defending, and also because of the difficulty of the enemies that has been established. There's going to be a ton of enemies all around you, and these ones hit really hard. It, to some extent, becomes a waiting simulator and just sitting around in one main spot. Despite mentioning that, there's a few really awesome moments where some beefy enemies will come at you, and in those moments, it's great to be prepared for. When it comes down to the bosses in this one, the mini-boss encounters are really cool and pretty fun to see. As for the boss itself, it has a really cool design and mechanic where it can burrow, but other than that, it kind of just went in a circle. I will admit, I had a really good team because this was during a live stream, but it was also kind of underwhelming. If we accidentally shredded him too quickly, my bad. Now we can finally rank this, and it's going into B. I know everything's in B, but this is pretty much the graph that I'm gonna be going with. If I had to mellow it out a little bit more, it would look something like this is going to be the final ranking if I had to smooth it out a little bit better. There's a few things here and there between all of these that I would kind of say, maybe it goes here, maybe it goes over here. But for the most part, I feel pretty good about this from my own personal experience. What do you guys think? Which event did you like and which events did you not like? Are we on a similar wavelength, or did you have way different experiences than I did? For the vast majority of these, I really like the larger maps and I really like the all-out war type of scenarios. A lot of these were played during a live stream and a lot of these were played on my own. So if you do want to check those out, I'll have links over in the top right. If you want to give the game a try, the link is going to be down below in the description. If you're looking for other games to play, check out my channel. I upload a ton of content, so hopefully you'll be able to find something new and fun to play. And feel free to leave a comment down below of games I should play. Other than that, that's going to be all from me, and I will see ya.